Hello, Alison. Hello, Ollie and Maggie and Jerry. And hello, everyone, and a very warm welcome to A Date with an Interset programme 227 here on November the 24th, the last Sunday in November. That's an interesting one. It wasn't Parkinson, actually. We'll come to that in a minute. But anyway, you are most welcome. What a week it's been, hasn't it? Weather-wise, I did prophesy all this bad weather, didn't I? I said it was going to be cold, a cold snap, and many of you have had snow, I know. And now we've all got wind. It's just the way it goes, isn't it? You are most welcome whether you're watching us live or whether you are watching on the catch-up. So that opening music, in a very similar vein, brother, to the Parkinson music, it was actually the music which accompanied the Dave Allen at Large show, which ran from the beginning of, I think, 1975 for about 10 years. And it's a piece of, what is it a piece of? Well, a piece of music, we know that. Library music, thank you. I had a floor manager giving me a prompt there, a bit of library music. And the actual title of that bit of music is called Studio 69, and it's composed by Alan HAWKSHAW, who we've heard from before on the programme. Alan HAWKSHAW worked for KPM Music Library and produced hundreds of tracks for them over a period of 20 years. Some of his tracks include the theme music to Grange Hill, Countdown, Channel 4 News, blah, 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 blah. Anyway, that groovy bit of Hammond organ music was called Studio 69, and it introduced the Dave Allen show. And it was composed, that bit of music, in 1969. So we've got an interesting programme. Well, it's always interesting, we know that. I would normally say at this point it's our usual mix of 6 pieces, but it's not. It's 6 2/4 pieces this evening, and all will become clear later on, hopefully. But I do hope this finds you well and warm, and certainly warmer than it was a few days ago. Isn't it bizarre how large the fluctuation in temperature has been? It's not that many hours ago that it was at -2, and driving along this afternoon, driving along in an army truck, in a humpty-bumpty army truck, the car said it was 17 degrees. Most bizarre, isn't it? And yet we have these gusts of wind over 50 mile an hour, and quite a few branches and trees I have seen down on my travels today. Anyway, I hope you'll enjoy our selection this evening. As always, if you're in the chat room and you want to chat along about the music, the composer, the context, or anything else, or your experiences of the weather this week, or just your experiences, feel free, and we will talk in between the music. I'll have a sip of coffee, and then we will launch into our music this evening. Do enjoy the programme. Hello, Rosie. Nice to see you. Oh, hi, Bob. Good to see you too. I thought I'd better turn my snow off now while I remember. We don't want a blizzard before the end of the evening, do we? I couldn't resist that. I decided on that as soon as I saw about the snow on Tuesday in various parts of the country. Yeah, so indeed, of course, that was Let It Snow, which interestingly isn't a Christmas song or indeed any other holiday song. It was composed in a heat wave in California in July in 1945 by Mr. Jules Styne. And it's just become associated with winter and Christmas, obviously, because of the sort of wintry, sparkly feel of the snow. It's one of those traditions, isn't it, that is built up. So there we go. I know, Jill, we're too smug and warm in Hersham, are we not? But knowing that it had been snowing, I did set off on my travels. I'm sorry I didn't get to all of you, but I did have a little look around at where, I know where some of you live, you see. So I did have go and take some pictures of some of your places that enjoyed the snow this week. So I hope you enjoy this little montage we're putting together for you now. These are all taken during this week. It's possible I didn't technically take them all, or indeed any of them, but I thought it was rather nice just to reference some of the places. That's a very vague reference to Yorkshire, by the way, the Stanley family, sorry. Yeah, just a reference for snow, because it was quite a shock, wasn't it? The first taste of winter, so to speak. So that was our opening one this evening. Couldn't resist sneaking in Let It Snow. As always, if you like what you see and hear, then do press the thumbs up button. Be careful you press the thumbs up button. I think everyone got it right last week. And the thumbs were all pointing up when I went to look at the stats. So there we go. Also, don't forget, if you have happened upon this program and you're not subscribed, then do press the subscribe button to belong to this. Absolutely, Alison. Yeah, I quite agree. Bob, I'm surprised by that, because I was reading the news that Suffolk had quite a bit of snow in places. But there we go. Right, I think I'll have a bit of coffee, and then we'll launch on to our next bit of music. Do enjoy. You should have gone for it, Bob. I keep forgetting you got multiple houses. I just thought Suffolk, they've got snow. But there we go. Yes, indeed. We got the Genie from Hannah. Thank you very much for that. First one in was, of course, A Whole New World from Aladdin, which came out in 1992. Obviously, it was in production for a few years before that, and a huge part of the great Disney. Sorry, I'm laughing at my own little joke there. Part of a great Disney Renaissance. And it's relevant to say that it was in production for a few years. The music, of course, by the great Alan Menken. And there with him is his longtime writing partner on the creative side, the lyrical side, the stage side, Howard Ashman, who sadly passed away during the production of Aladdin, but it was his idea, Howard's idea, and he pitched it to Disney. And indeed, he wrote the lyrics to 3 of the songs which appear in Aladdin. Interestingly, not that one. The lyrics to that song, A Whole New World, from 1992, were composed by Sir Tim Rice, who gallantly stepped in and finished off some of the work that Howard had started before he passed away. So there you go, A Whole New World. Incidentally, all the songs this evening, all the pieces of music, we've not had at all during 2024. I've been gouging I have through the archives to see what we should have been doing. We do obviously keep a record of everything we've done in 227 programs. I quite agree, Bob. It's one of those Disney films, isn't it? That all the hit songs are, and all the score is fantastic. It works really well. So before we go on, so just a little ad for this week's upload. In November, I'm doing piano covers of Barry Manilow. I got so taken by the harmonies of that October song last month, I changed my mind and decided to do all Barry Manilow covers on a Friday. So this week it was the sort of epic Could It Be Magic? I say epic because it runs to some 6.5 minutes and famously based on Chopin's C minor Prelude. So if you want to have a listen to 6.5 minutes of drama, or indeed just a little bit, actually after about a minute you get the idea of it, then that is on the channel, and as always there is a link to it in the video description. Oh yes, it's all coming back now, Barbara. I do remember Peter Andre and Katie Price. Gosh, doing yeah, actually it was of its time, but quite good, wasn't it? Okay, fingers on buzzers for this one. You should get this one within about 4 bars, I reckon. Haven't had this one for a very long time. Do enjoy. Yes. My favourite things. From 1959. 1959 was when the musical The Sound of Music, Richard Rodgers and Oscar Hammerstein came out. And then, of course, in 1965, the very famous film version, which goes on for about 74 hours, I believe. But my favourite things, yes, it's one of those nice list songs, isn't it? By which I don't mean it's by the composer list, obviously. So, in answer to your question, Alison, quite a few. And I started that and pressed that button. I don't know what's going on in the machinery tonight, but it was playing back at the wrong speed. I timed it so carefully to go exactly all those photos. Never mind, it doesn't matter, does it? It doesn't matter. It's the thought that counts, and there was quite a lot of thought going into that one. After the initial iteration of that, my favourite things, I morphed into a bit of a sort of tribute to Dave Brubeck, who very famously did a recording of My Favourite Things back in the mid-60s. In fact, he did a whole album called My Favourite Things, which was an album of Richard Rodgers' music. Good evening, Martin, and good evening, Jeannie. How very good to see you. So there we go. That was our one from 1959. Now, I said at the top of the programme that tonight we have not 6 pieces, but 6 2/4 pieces. Here come the 2 quarters. The first one, very obvious what the piece of music is about, but as I say, they are tributes to people rather than pieces in their own right. But do enjoy and do type away as soon as you recognise what may be going on, and then we'll talk a bit about who we are paying tribute to this evening. I did say you're only going to get a quarter in, but the reason for playing that this evening was in tribute to Mr. VIC FLICK. Great name, isn't it? The guitarist who passed away this week. And VIC FLICK very famously, first of all, started his guitar playing career in the John Barry band, and then was selected to play that opening amazing riff of the Monty Norman theme, a James Bond theme, which appeared first of all in 1962. Good evening, Mr. Mark Turver. How lovely to see you. So VIC FLICK made that very famous, and partly famous because of the amp and the settings that he had through it. But here's a fascinating bit of information. He was paid for doing that $15. $15. You heard it here, folks. So that was our first tribute. So here's the second quarter bit of music. See if you recognise what this one is. So I'm madly pressing the camera button and pressing the wrong camera button, which is why you got the piano and not me there. Yes, you are all on the right tracks. You know it. I know you recognise it. So the song was, as Hannah said, Je ne regrette rien. Jill identified, I knew you knew what it was. And then Ollie and the Robertsons said it as well. Now, the reason for playing that one, or a little bit of it, was for its composer, passed away this week, Mr. Charles Dumont, who actually composed, was it Mark Turville? Good heavens. Didn't surprise me, actually. Charles Dumont actually composed over 30 songs for Edith Piaf. Apparently, and it may not be a surprise, Edith Piaf was a right, what's the polite word? Diva. And when Charles Dumont went round actually to present that song, she was cross because she didn't want to see him that day because she hadn't done her hair. Didn't look like she's done it in that picture either, to be quite honest. Sorry, that was a bit catty. Kept him waiting on a doorstep for 2 hours before letting him in, and then he played the song and she loved it and decided that she'd make it a hit, and indeed she did. So I just thank you, Hannah. Old bag. Thank you. Thank you, Barbara. Yes. Quite a voice. Anyway, that was why we had those two little quarter songs in tribute to those people. So we are going to move swiftly on with our next bit of music to enjoy. Mother is on the right tracks, Hannah. As indeed is Bob. And possibly Jill. But that was, again, we haven't had it for some time. We used to have it quite a lot, actually. We've had it 8 times on the Date With It in the Set in our 227 programmes, but not for some time, well over a year. The Shadow of Your Smile is the title for which you were desperately looking. And it was composed in 1965 by Mr. Johnny Mandel. And yes, it was composed for the Richard Burton Elizabeth Taylor film The Sandpiper. And it's one of those evergreen sort of ballad type of songs that everyone sort of half knows, really, and it's been a staple cover for people like Tony Bennett, etc., etc., etc. It's a really, really, really nice poetic song, and that's what that one was from 1965. So today, obviously, it's November 24th, the last Sunday in November. It sounds frightening to say it like that, doesn't it? And if I was looking for what day to celebrate, and it was just too obvious. The one to celebrate today is Stir-Up Sunday. Stir-Up Sunday, the 24th of November. And it's got quite an interesting history, this one, in that the actual title, Stir-Up Sunday, has only been around just over 100 years. And it's celebrated for 2 reasons. The one on the right is the collect for today, which is the 25th Sunday after Trinity, the Anglican collect, which is stirring up. We beseech thee, O Lord, the wills of thy faithful people. So preparing for the future. This Sunday is actually the last Sunday in the Anglican church calendar before it all kicks off with Advent again next week. And then if you sort of cast your mind to the left, then this is the Sunday, apparently, on which we should be making our Christmas puddings and Christmas cakes so they have time to mature. Oh, fantastic, Rosie. Congratulations. And David, that's really, really wonderful. Yeah, so that's what today is, Stir-Up Sunday. So whether you worship from the Bible or the Bible of Mrs. Beaton, it's up to you. It works both ways, this little name that's been invented for Stir-Up Sunday, the Sunday before Advent. You heard it here, folks. Isn't that fantastic? I hope you enjoyed that little nugget. I expect you knew it already. I'm just going to reach quite a long way for my water. I can see it at the back of a table. I'm not quite sure why I put it there, so just hang on. That's me. Okay, so we have 2 songs left this evening. So after all that chilly weather and snow and ice and wind and rain, something a little more warming for our penultimate song to enjoy. Thank you, Bob, very much. Yes, you all got there in the end, didn't you? As very famously sung by the amazing voice of Astra Gilberto. That was The Girl from Ipanema, that you all identified correctly as composed by Mr. Tom Jobim. That's obviously a statue of him rather than him himself, but that is a full-size statue on Ipanema Beach. And that's how much he was thought of. That song, of course, became very famous. It was first composed in 1962, and apparently it's the second most recorded song in the world after Yesterday, apparently. The Girl from Ipanema. It's just got a lovely driving beat to it. Going back to Astra Gilberto briefly, when it came out, the album with Stan Getz in the 1960s, and she made that album sell. She wasn't even credited on it, and she was paid $100. I just love these facts about how musicians aren't treated very well. But there we go. The Girl from Ipanema was our penultimate one. Now look, I've left it as late as I can in the calendar year to talk about this, but I can't leave it any more because next week it will be December, so we have to start talking about Christmas. And I'm very lucky because I get to play in a lot of places, and this year I've been particularly lucky to have been invited to play at four or five different churches for various carol services starting next week. But they're all on Sundays. I've got an Advent carol service, a Christingle, and 2 9 lessons and carols in different locations, and that does rather put the cat among several pigeons as far as a date with a dinner set goes. So this is the only way I can do it, because I'm also connected to 3 choirs for their Christmas concerts, which are taking place on Saturdays. So I'm afraid next Sunday you are going to be watching a recorded version of A Date with a Dinner Set, and ditto on Sunday the 8th. However, on Saturday the 14th of December and Saturday the 21st of December, I am going to put the programme out live on those Saturdays. If you want to join in with it live, I know some of you do. And I will also then put the programme up as a video so that it will run on the Sunday evening at 18:30 as is usual. We have to wait till December for that, don't we, Alison? In fact, you never know. May not make an appearance this year. You never know. Anyway, that's what's happening. I'll keep you appraised as things change. There will be a number of live appearances. Gosh, delusions are grander. Live appearances over Christmas. I'm not quite sure when yet. It depends when I'm playing at the hotel. But we will certainly be doing something live on Christmas Eve. We need to launch into our final bit of music. We always end with something which is either new to the programme, something classical, a request, or something quirky. And tonight's ending bit of music definitely falls into the category of quirky. So do enjoy before we say goodnight in our usual way. Yes, 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 from 1975. The Sweeney, composed by Mr. Harry South. An amazing bit of iconic TV music. 1975, of course, that wonderful series, The Sweeney, John Thaw, Dennis Waterman, etc., etc., and all those quite equally amazing cars and car chases. So I do hope you enjoyed that one to finish off a Date with a Dinner Set programme 227 here on November the 24th. Let's hope the weather is a little more stable and normal in the week that is to come. I won't be here live, but I will leave you something in the fridge, as it were, for 18:30 next Sunday evening. Do have a very good week that is to come. Thank you so much for tuning in and being part of the fun here on A Date with a Dinner Set. Do take care of yourselves. Good night.